This is the Cosmic Clock poster. My name's Kevin Drake, and this has been an ongoing research and design project since 2018. It's currently available for sale from the middleburyAstrology.com website and from Etsy. And I wanted to do a quick walkthrough and just tell you what this is and how all the pieces work together. So to jump right into it, the clock itself is a physical thing. It's 3 by 4 feet. It's printed with archival ink on a premium white canvas material. The teak magnetic frames are included, so you can pull it right out of the box and hang it directly on the wall. And now to actually talk about what it is. The most prominent thing, of course, is the cosmic clock itself. So this timepiece represents the sun in the center, and you can imagine the Earth on the outside traveling around from spring equinox to solstice, fall equinox to winter solstice. And all of the archetypal, mythical thought forms that the craft of astrology speaks about are included. And it moves to increasing complexity as you move out. So you start with the hemispheres, and then the seasons, the 12 zodiacs, the 36 decans, and the 48 periods, which are the 12 open cusps that Gary Goldschneider pioneered in the mid-90s, which is kind of the most complex layer on this outermost layer here. When we first look at the poster, I have a timeline here with some of the kind of key characters that mend astrology with arithmology. So essentially Pythagorean and Neo-Pythagorean thought. So we have the 10 kind of basic numbers that make up the arithmological thought form, from monad to dyad, triad to tetrad, and so forth. The primary Pythagorean characters, the Neo-Pythagorean philosophers, and the kind of principal characters in astrology. So from Asclepius to Imhotep, Nechepso, Petasiris, I try to cover who are these fundamental characters that are sitting really at the origins of modern Western astrology, which would be Hellenistic astrology. And of course, that moment became key because in the Mediterranean, from Greece to Syria down to Egypt, it was Alexander the Great who unified this part of the world, and in some syncretic way allowed all of the intelligence of these people concerning time and their sense of reality, the philosophies of this time, were all coming together. And this is why we often think of the Library of Alexandria and these first museums, the places of the muses, as a moment that helped kind of crystallize this thought, the thoughts of all these peoples. Next we have the primary animating motor, the philosophical motor, which is the polarity of the dyad itself. So essentially the number 2, how this animating force, when it travels through the triad, through time, becomes the tetrad, which would be the 4 classical elements and essentially the realm of the solid and the realm of the forms of time. Here, this I call the great breath. So this concerns, though the Theosophists have their cyclical great breath, they call it. This is also cyclical in nature, but it's concerned mostly with centrifugal force, so something that spreads, increases speed and complexity and multiplicity, and centripetal force, which would be moving towards a center point, and how these two distinct energies really make up a breath that breathes out into multiplicity and that inhales into unity. So this is the primary motor which is driving essentially the astrological craft of the cosmic clock here. Next we break down the tetractys. So of course from dot, line, circle, and solid, this is the 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. This is the basic thought form of Pythagoras. He's credited with coming up with this triangular form. And this becomes key too, being that the triangle is the first and simplest enclosed space. this is how astrology tends to talk about the triangle as a synergistic form, the combination of 3 points. So we get from this to the 4 elements. 4 elements are discussed here. And then below the cosmic clock itself, briefly I talk about what are the cardinal directions. Astrology is really a really reduced way of looking at sun rises in the east. This is the future, the animating quality of the sun and moon polarity. It's overhead, it's radiant in the objective sphere of the shared public sphere. Sets in the west, it merges. This is where we find the 7th house. So I cover this here, and then the 12th house structure, which is kind of the projected human fantasy of the evolving psyche. Then we look at the planetary governances, both old and new. Everything is set on Earth's orbit too, because I feel like to understand astrology, you're looking at the shapes of time and how they relate to each other. And then this is something that was really important to me over the years of studying astrology now, is the idea that the polarity, the fundamental force of opposites, is really key to making astrology practical and not getting lost in the centrifuge of just saying, why am I different? What makes me different? Because of course attention on the multiplicities just creates more multiplicities. But getting to a center point and trying to understand what it is to have a central vision where you can see the pieces in each of us that unifies us versus what makes me different, what makes you different, I think is actually key to finding some peace with this craft. So this whole section at the bottom is really about polarity, how if we find ourselves stuck anywhere, because all of this time is essentially a craft that it talks about, all of this time is in you, not just this specific moment of quality, the specific gift of time. It's all of time. So the idea is here, if we find ourselves stuck anywhere, as long as we know what axis, one of the 6 axes, then we can move towards the opposite point. And if we can do that, then we can probably find our way to a more central vision, a more central place, a more balanced place, where things are not moving as fast. Next we have a boy sitting under this tree here, looking forward, and we can look at how we go from the philosophical thought form of the monad, this kind of singularity that is kind of an arrested state, to the movement of the line away from that center point into its complexities. So from monad to dyad, with particular attention on the triad itself. Why is the triangle so important to this philosophical thought form? And then how we get to the complexity of the clock as we move to the right. So this is the cosmic clock. I'll have more videos where we'll go into depth about each of the figures, the timeline itself, some of the language obviously being used. But that is a basic walkthrough on what this poster is. And if you're interested in purchasing it or have more questions, you can email me through my website, through middleburyastrology.com, or visit me over on Etsy and purchase a clock for yourself. Very briefly, the frame is included, so the idea here is to make something of some premium quality that could be put up very easily. Yeah, so thanks for your attention and have a great day.